This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Megan Shepard. Thank you so much for tuning in. The country is in hurricane preparedness mode as Hurricane Isaias makes its way through the chain of islands. Last night, the nation's leader making a number of announcements, relaxing current lockdown restrictions in order to give residents more time to prepare for the approaching storm. Isaias is already making its way through the chain of Bahamian islands, and Grand Bahama is expected to feel the effects of the hurricane on Saturday. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, making the decision to relax curfew restrictions across the country to allow residents to prepare.
To prepare for Tropical Storm Isaias, this weekend's lockdown will be relaxed to allow for storm preparations and to respond following the passage of this storm. Effective Friday, the 31st July 2020, a curfew will be in place from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. This will remain in effect until further notice. I also wish to announce that based on current indicators and data provided by health officials, a lockdown will still be necessary following the passage of this storm.
The Prime Minister also announcing extended shopping hours for essential businesses.
This weekend, food stores, water depots, pharmacies, and gas stations will be permitted to be open on Saturday until 8 p.m. if weather permits. Hardware stores will be permitted to be open until 8 p.m. on Friday, as well as Saturday until 8 p.m. Persons will be permitted to move around for the purposes of storm preparation and to respond to any emergencies during and after the storm.
Now, as the country is still battling the COVID-19 pandemic, the nation's leader is also appealing to residents to use these relaxed measures wisely. He says that while restrictions may change often, it is in the best interest of the Bahamian people.
I know that various changes to many measures may at times be frustrating and quite difficult for some. But I assure we are acting on the best advice from health, weather, security, and other officials. My overriding priority is the safety and security of the Bahamian people and our residents.
Residents of Grand Bahama taking advantage of the relaxed restrictions. Today, they were out in large numbers to complete hurricane preparation. Jay Philippe reports.
There were long lines at the food stores as residents waited anxiously to make their last-minute purchases in preparation for the storm. Over at Sawyer's, it was reported that customers were on lines from early morning hoping to purchase groceries and other necessary items. The scene was the same over at Courtright. There was a peak in demand at gas stations as well. At East Mall Drive Station, cars stretched for what seemed like miles as motorists waited to fuel their vehicles. The city of Freeport is still enduring hardship from Hurricane Dorian. The community of Hudson Estates was one area that incurred significant flooding. One resident says Hurricane Dorian taught him a valuable lesson.
Looking at it on TV, it doesn't look like it's a Dorian, but the Dorian taught me that, hey, be prepared, because I was just sitting there hoping that Dorian would pass, and then all of a sudden I was swimming out of here. So now we don't know what turn this hurricane, ICS or whatever the name is going to take. So I'm preparing a little bit early. I got all my shutters in. And even inside the house, we made some stands 4 foot higher than the water. So we're going to put all the valuables, shoes, and anything that we want to save on top of those stands, and we're going to go to the shelter before the hurricane comes.
Hurricane Isaias is expected to impact the entire Bahamas. Grand Bahama has had its fair share of hurricanes, and this is something that this resident is concerned about.
When I watched TV and saw that hurricane going over Puerto Rico and how massive it was, I say, hey, let me do early. Let me get this done early, and this is it. Now I'm finished, really. Just need to get some gas and some ice, and we're out of here. Everybody say, oh, doing Dorian? Well, that wasn't expected. Well, with this storm, we don't know what to expect, so let's bat up everything. Try to keep everything in your house at a higher level, and get out of there.
I'm Jay Philippe, ZNS Network News.
Now, as Hurricane Isaias continues to move through the Bahamas, the Ministry of Disaster, Preparedness Management and Reconstruction, along with its relative partners, say they are in readiness mode and a number of shelters were opened to the public. Jamila Mizik picks up the story.
The Ministry of Disaster Preparedness Management and Reconstruction is closely monitoring the development of Hurricane Isaias, which is expected to impact Grand Bahama by this Saturday morning. Minister the Honorable Iram Lewis says 8 shelters on the island have been activated.
Bishop Michael Eldon School, Foster B. Prestina Hall, and that is where our special needs evacuees will be housed, and that is at Christ the King Church. Maurice Moore Primary School for East End Grand Bahama residents. Calvary Temple, St. George's High School Gymnasium, 8 Mile Rock High School, Central Zion Baptist Church, and Bethel Baptist Church.
The minister says those residents who will be moving to these shelters are reminded of the regulations outlined in the COVID-19 emergency orders, as we cannot let our guards down in the fight against COVID-19. He says persons in quarantine on the island will remain on quarantine and will be assisted as best as possible. And if those persons wish to evacuate before or during the storm, they're asked to call the Emergency Operations Center at 351-4902 or 3. Now, considering the potential surges associated with the system, Minister Lewis is advising residents in the following areas to evacuate.
McLean's Town, Sweetings Key, High Rock, Dover Sound, Barbary Coast, Lucayan Glen, Forest Green, the harbor area, the airport zone, East Airport Zone, Queens Cove, Lucayan Estate, the heavy industrial area, and the coastal areas of Williamstown, Russelltown, Pinders Point, Bayshore Road, West End, 8 Mile Rock, those on Rhodes Avenue and Kwaku Street, in Holmes Rock, Deadman's Reef, Boodle Bay, and yes, of course, the entire community of West End.
The minister notes that there will be buses at the various shelters in the event that they need to move from one shelter to another. And for those residents who are still concerned about debris collection on the island, Minister Lewis says they're hoping to get as much of it cleared up as possible.
With respect to personal preparation, we know persons are on the streets, but we have your system in place where you have your back generators, your fuel ready to go. With respect to water supply, we expect that person would have all of those necessary supplies in their home and be on full lockdown as late as tonight.
Jamila Mizik, ZNS Network News.
Members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force standing guard to protect life and property as this hurricane approaches. Officers will be stationed at the Emergency Operating Center located at the National Emergency Agency Headquarters, NEMA, at the Star General Building. Chief Superintendent of Police Doyle Burrows says officers are ready to assist with rescue efforts if necessary.
Before the weather comes directly upon us, we do advise members of the public, if you have no reason to be on the street, stay home. The police will be up and about patrolling as long as we can. Once weather comes upon us, the commissioner gives the command for us to go in. We will have to retreat and make sure that we are safe. We have already identified areas for us to do that. And so bear in mind for sure, in the midst or in the height of the storm, there will be no one available to come out and assist you until such time as the weather abates.
Burrows adds that officers will be on patrol and he is asking for persons to remain home once they have made their final preparations. As it relates to the Fishing Hole Causeway, he says they are prepared to close the bridge if need be.
If you have to move between that corridor, make sure it's done the early hours of the morning, because we will monitor. So when it becomes impossible, we're gonna shut it down for our safety and the safety of the general public. Based on the meteorologists and the movement of the storm, once we monitor it and see it's becoming impossible, it will be shut down.
Now, health officials working along with the Ministry of Health to ensure that plans are in place for mitigation and support during the period of the storm. Administrator for the Grand Bahama Health Services noting that the facilities and staff are ready for emergency and disaster response. Rumiko Knowles has more.
Hospital Administrator Sharon Williams says as the storm approaches, regular services have been suspended. The Freeport Clinic located on East Atlantic Drive as well as the 8 Mile Rock Clinic are closed until further notice, but the emergency room will remain open for emergencies only.
We're asking our community to ensure that they have their medical supplies and that they have their pharmaceuticals and their medications in place and available for at least 2 weeks, as is usually advised to our public. Now,
the Grand Bahama Health Services was impacted by a severe weather system back in April. The freak weather system caused some damage to several tents at the Rand Memorial Hospital. Williams says since then, they have not seen any patients under those tents, and preparations were made to house patients in safe facilities.
That is the accident and emergency section of the Rand Memorial Hospital. We have patients at the Sunrise Center, and we have patients at the Cancer Association building. We took the opportunity to rearrange our patients at this time to make sure that we are serving our public in the areas that they need to be served.
Now, during the press briefing, Williams noted that health practitioners were in contact with COVID-19 patients, adding that they will be given priority. As of yesterday, some 868 persons were quarantined.
So, of course, we will be dealing with those patients as a priority that are positive, but those that are suspects and those that are just in quarantine, then NEMA will assist with providing the necessary shelters.
Williams says despite these challenges, the Grand Bahama Health Services is well able to address this emergency.
In regular situations, we have, as usual, the assistance of the Princess Margaret Hospital and the Ministry of Health to help us to fly persons to Nassau who need additional help.
Rumiko Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Now, another entity that plays an important role before, during, and after a hurricane is the Red Cross. Tonight, the administrator gives an update on how they are preparing for any adverse weather systems. Administrator of the Grand Bahama Red Cross, Stephanie Barr, says that they are already in preparation mode as they are also monitoring the current weather system that is expected to approach the Bahamas. She says that although the new protocols put in place due to the COVID-19 pandemic may present some challenges, her team is ready for the task.
On top of it now, we have the little tropical system that's out there brewing. I have spoken with social services this morning, and so we gathering the troops, putting them on alert in the event after listening to tonight to see exactly where it is, if it is coming this way, and in any eventuality, we are working together and trying to get our shelters together. Those persons, our shelter persons, giving them all of their ammunition that they will be needing at the shelters. So we are still working and trying to just obey all the protocols.
She says that this year, however, preparations and plans will have to be a little different due to COVID-19. Barr adds that they are working with social services to prepare shelters on the island.
And so, we assist the social services with the shelters. So all of the shelters, then we will be, a Red Cross personnel will be with social services to man the shelters if we need to go at the shelters. And so we are just here making all preparations and watching as we look to the system that is coming here and still maintaining the protocols for COVID-19, which is totally different from Dorian last year and having to deal with just one thing. We now have two different things that we're dealing with, and we have to deal with all of them in order to be safe. Safe with COVID-19 and then safe now from the system. So it's a challenge, but we will get through it.
She has this word of hope for residents.
Be safe out there. With COVID-19, it's nothing to play with. We see that from our numbers escalating each day. And so we need to be safe with that. And we also need to be safe because, we are in the hurricane season. Please obey the protocols. Whenever we're out there, please obey the protocols to all of it, to COVID-19 and even in with a tropical storm or hurricane. We need to just obey all the protocols and follow that. Listen to ZNS and get all of your detailed information. And be safe, Bahamas, be safe.
The island of Abaco also bracing for the impending hurricane this weekend, while North and Central Abaco suffered tremendous damage during the passage of Hurricane Dorian. The southern communities on the island were spared the brunt of Dorian's wrath. Nonetheless, the administrator for South Abaco says they're putting the lessons of Dorian in place. For South Abaco and Moores Island, Donald Roll, says that preparations are going quite well for residents in that area. He notes that thankfully South Abaco did not suffer major damage during Hurricane Dorian.
South Abaco, the impact of Dorian wasn't as massive as it was in Central and North Abaco. We had a few minor damages to some houses. So 2 or 3 houses were severely damaged, but the people are taking precautions, make sure that their houses are being battered up, make sure that they're preparing, and make sure that they're preparing in the event of evacuation. They can take shelter at our various shelters we have throughout Moores Island and South Abaco.
He says that they are also looking to put in place the necessary backup plans that will follow the COVID-19 protocols, particularly when it comes to sanitization and safety within shelters.
We were planning for a while now, and it's just we had some loose ends that need to be tied up in terms of making sure that our generator is operational, make sure that we have reserve water just in case if the power and the water goes off, to deal with the sanitation and the order to adhere to the orders of the Prime Minister and the health professionals with regards to COVID-19. I think it will prevent some challenges because, this is unprecedented, and I think we all have to get used to it right now in terms of entering the shelter and plus adhering to the COVID-19 protocol.
Now, although the central communities are not within Roll's jurisdiction, he says he is aware that preparations are being made for residents that are currently living in temporary homes.
Well, I know that my colleague, Administrator Boodle-Lang in Central Abaco, is moving furiously to have those persons vacate those RVs and dorms with the impending hurricane that is on its way here to the Bahamas.
And although residents are taking the necessary precautionary steps to prepare, Administrator Roll is noting that this impending hurricane brings along with it mental anguish due to Hurricane Dorian.
That is what it is right there. It's a psychological impact on all of us because of what we experienced during Dorian.
Hey, this is Reverend Robert Lockhart, Grand Bahama Christian Council President, Pastor of Calvary Temple, and a resident of Grand Bahama, Freeport. I just want to say to Grand Bahama and to the whole Bahamas, I know we're going through a second lockdown, especially in Grand Bahama, and I just want to encourage all of you. I want to share this scripture with you that says, God is a present help in times of need. And you know, one of the greatest gifts God gave us, if not the greatest gift, is life itself. And so as long as you're alive, I want to encourage you, no matter what situations arise, no matter what's happening, make sure take the opportunity to enjoy life. If you have to find some new things to do, then do it, and give God the praise and give God the glory. I want to encourage all of us, especially in Grand Bahama, to continue to exercise wisdom, to continue to trust God, to continue to be good to one another, and continue to give God the praise and give God the glory. And also continue to pray for our leaders, that God will continue to give them wisdom as they help navigate us through this situation and this pandemic. And so I want to encourage all of us, let's continue to work together, and let's continue to be a praying people. And I believe that we're going to come through this. It may not be in the time in which we desire, but I believe we're going to come through it successfully. And so I just want to say to all of you, you know, God is a good God, and every day God is doing something good. And so I encourage you, not let's just focus on the negatives, but let's focus on the things that are so good, the things that are positive. Make the best out of every situation, and make the best even of being locked down. And so I want to encourage you to do that. And so may God continue to bless each and every one of you. All of us as pastors and churches are praying for each and every one of you, and praying for the Bahamas, and praying for our leaders as we seek God's guidance to direct us through this pandemic, and pray that everyone continue to be safe, and that we continue to take care of ourselves and take care of one another. God bless you, and have a great day.